June the 8th is World Oceans Day, and the theme for this year is The Ocean, Life and Livelihoods. The occasion highlights the importance of oceans for the global community. In China, this year's event is marked with a focus on protecting marine biodiversity and raising public awareness on the harmonious coexistence between humankind and nature. So what challenges are we facing collectively in protecting our oceans? How solid is international cooperation on ocean affairs? Can we collaborate while keeping our differences? Joining me today from Beijing is Professor Jiang, Yihang, former United Nations Senior Officer on Marine Affairs and a distinguished member of the Global Governance Institution, a think tank in China. Professor Jiang, thank you very much for joining us. So globally, the market value of marine and coastal resources and industries is estimated at about $3 trillion a year, or about 5% of the global GDP. That's according to data from the United Nations. Despite the value of the coastal ecosystem, the economic development of coastal cities strongly impact marine and coastal environments. How do you evaluate this impact? Is it positive or negative or mixed?
Okay. The value, economic value, which you refer in your talk, about $3 trillion is a little bit old data, which is underestimated. The economic value of a coastal area divided into two parts. The one part is the market value, which called direct value of marine resources. The second part is called the service value, which is provided by the ocean to various ecosystems, which is indirect value. I think the human activities produce quite a number of negative impact, in particular to the service value of coastal ecosystems. Which is largely affected the long-term economic involvement for the coastal community and for the all human societies. I think the value is important, but we cannot put our eyes only on the market value, but we need to put more attention to the service value which ocean give to human.
How big of a challenge at this moment to protect marine biodiversity with increased human activities?
This is a good question. The challenges are quite big and cover a very wide area. But since today is the World Ocean Day, I will focus on the challenge, the relevant challenge to the public awareness of a whole society. I think the one of important challenge is the provision of scientific knowledge to the public society. Sometimes are not correct. I think this is a big challenge by the scientific society and by the media. One example which I do wish to provide here is the tidal power plant, which according to the some countries' regulation, the renewable energy provided by the electric companies should cover 3% of the total power they provided. And the tidal power plant is an important element. The scientific society, together with the media, all the time refer the tidal power plant is renewable clean energy. However, the situation is not always correct. The tidal power plants always build up on the coastal area, which has a rich wetland area, provide habitat to the all marine animals and the plants. I think to build up a high deck to use the tidal energy will destroy the vast tidal area, which will destroy thousands of different animals. I think this is an example to see how important we can provide correct information.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see. I think that also referred to the kind of service value you mentioned just now on top of economic value. I have just been told that we are joined by Mr. Thomas Gehl, who is president of ChildWise International Corporation, an organization dedicated to creating education and training materials for the Greater China market. Mr. Gehl, it's good to have you on the show. So China has proposed the concept of building a maritime community with shared future for the Blue Planet in a congratulatory letter to the 2019 China Marine Economy Expo. Chinese President Xi Jinping urged efforts to promote marine connectivity and cooperation in all areas and develop a blue partnership among all countries. Mr. Gehl, how do you look at the relevance of the idea that China has proposed, of the ideas that China has proposed, and what's the significance of these ideas in terms of promoting marine ecology environment?
Well, I think this is a critical area, and that President Xi has once again taken a leadership position on this. That actually goes back much further. President Xi had made some statements in 2012 and 2013 talking about the importance of China having a maritime Belt and Road initiative to be able to do the conductivity throughout the region, through the Indian Ocean and into the Mediterranean. But wanting to have the ecological assessments on how to do things in a responsible way is really fortuitous for the aquatic environment, because it is so delicate and needs protecting, and we have not done a very good job on that so far. So I think by, again, looking at it as a whole on how we have to protect our fisheries, our reefs, our various tidal areas, that it will go a long ways in encouraging other countries to do the same.
Professor Jiang, in terms of international cooperation and global governance, how well are countries working with each other at this moment, and what still needs to be done?
Based on my experience working in the region, I mean Asian Pacific region, the cooperation among the participating countries to improve the marine ecosystem and environment is quite possible. I do have experience working in the South China Sea project, which covers the 7 countries with different political agendas. Mm-hmm. And I do have another experience working on the Yellow Sea with 3 countries without the peace agreement. I think the most important things for cooperation for the governance of the ocean among the participating countries is how you're going to build up a mutual trust among the partners of a participating country. If you can do it, the cooperation and the coordination of national efforts in the region with an identified environment target is quite possible.
Mr. Gehl, how do you look at the kind of picture of international cooperation and coordination and possible conflict resolution in terms of maritime disputes and topics related to the oceans? We talk about the South China Sea, for instance, very much, and as Mr. Jiang also mentioned, the Yellow Sea, where various countries all have their stake and different stands. How can countries put aside geopolitical differences and focus on areas where they can collaborate, such as, ecology, environment, and even maritime rescue?
I think it is a critical area for the development internationally, and it is in everyone's best interest to be able to have coordinated, unified efforts to be able to embrace the environmental issues as well as you say, maritime rescue and other things. The the seas, the planet doesn't have well-defined boundaries when you talk about air currents and water currents. They're obviously moving throughout the geopolitical regions that are there and need to be protected on all sides. So we need to have that unified effort to be able to work and have a continuity of care on fishing-related activities, so we're not scouring the ocean floor. We protect the fisheries that are there. We stop the pollution that's being interjected into the waters. And we have all countries work in a coordinated fashion to try to advance the environmental objectives on a unified basis. And I think that can be done. And again, I applaud China for having the leadership in many of those areas, and I hope that that continues.
Professor Jiang, just now you mentioned your experience working on the South China Sea issue. We talk about, or the South China Sea is in the news all the time, but more or less from a geopolitical point of view, what do you think people have neglected so far, and what needs to be, higher on people's mind, and what kind of awareness needs to be there in order to really focus on what can be done at this moment for the collective good?
The first, to ensure the effective cooperation and coordination among the participating countries, we do need to respect the different views, the different system of political structure in the countries, which they're willing to work together to improve the ecosystem in the South China Sea, for instance. Therefore, the mutual trust built up before the project started is very important. Secondly, I think the sustainable policy implementation is quite important. You cannot all the time change your policy of the project and affect the effective implementation. For instance, in the South China Sea project, we successfully developed the regional strategic action program, which approved by all participating countries in the boundary, the South China Sea. However, the implementation of such strategic action program is becoming a critical issue, critical important to managing the ecosystem in the South China Sea, including the fisheries, protection of pollutions, and the sustainable use of a coastal habitat, like a mangrove, like a coral reef in the region. I think the continuation of a national policy along the protection is critically important.
Mm-hmm. Finally, Mr. Gehl, China will seek extensive involvement in a global maritime governance mechanism and promote a maritime community with a shared future according to the country's outline of the 14th five-year plan, that is for 2021 to 2025, and the long-range objectives through the year 2035. Based on what you have seen in the past years, what can neighboring countries expect by way of cooperation with China?
Well, I think that we have to have a unified effort as we move forward. As you talk about, we've had a lot of geopolitical interchange between the countries so far, and there have been some courts of law that have been effective in being able to set down international relations between the countries. So I think we need to do that on a very cooperative fashion to be able to continue to move forward in a self-governing way, to be able to implement all the different strategies that need to be utilized to be able to protect our oceans. We've done a century or more of degradation on them, so now we need to have a unified front to be able to embrace all the policies we need to move forward in a very positive way. And I believe, from what I've seen of the various countries bordering the South China Sea and other regions, that they are willing to do that, and China can be a leader and a stimulus in it. And I think that the other countries would be very glad to follow the very positive policies that are being developed.
Many thanks to Professor Jiang, Yihang and Thomas Gehl. With that, we come to the end of this edition of The Point. With me, Liu Xin. As always, you can follow me on Facebook and Twitter using the handle Liu Xin in Beijing. Thanks for watching. You've got The Point.